Even if you don't speak German and have never been to Germany, you could be eligible for a German citizenship. Here's why. Hallo, Servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio for the last 9 years and then just moved back to Germany this past September. And as of 2024, I'm a dual citizen of Germany and now also of the US. Now, I got my dual citizenship because I moved to another country, became a resident there, and then passed all of the required tests. So I took the standard route, so to say. But did you know that in Germany, it's possible to become a citizen without ever having lived there? I know that many of you guys have German ancestry in your family, and because German citizenship is passed down by descent, it is possible that your great-great-grandfather, or whoever your German ancestor was, has passed down the right to citizenship all the way to you, and you might not even be aware of it. That's why last year I made this video for you guys explaining all of the different scenarios that might make you eligible to apply for German citizenship by descent. If you haven't seen that video yet, it'll be linked in the video description down below and up here in the corner. I gotta say, I hadn't expected to get so much feedback from you guys on this video. There were so many of you saying that due to this video, you found out that your family was eligible for German citizenship. Some of you already messaged me saying that you have since received your German passports. Many of you took it as an impulse to start researching your family history. It truly warmed my heart reading all of that. But of course, there were also a lot of follow-up questions on the topic, which is why I'm making this video. So let's go through your questions and get them answered. First up, any recommendations on people I can hire to help me sort out my genealogy? German descent ended up in Kansas. I saw a few questions along those lines, and that's a very valid thing to ask about because in order to claim your German citizenship, you do need to prove that you're eligible for it first. And for that, you'll need to be able to trace back your lineage and show documents like birth certificates, marriage records, and naturalization records. And gathering all of that can be a lot of work. You might even have to obtain records directly from Germany, and navigating all of that without physically being in Germany or speaking the language can be quite the challenge. And obviously, not everyone has the time and resources to do this on their own. So yes, you absolutely can hire some help, which is why I teamed up with Athena Genealogy for this video. They've already helped hundreds of clients to successfully obtain German citizenship by descent, so they're experts in this field. In the first step, they'll help you check your eligibility. On the website, you can find a short questionnaire, and then you can book a free discovery call where your individual case will be reviewed. And if you do qualify, Athena Genealogy can handle the entire application process for you, including the research, all required paperwork, and the communication with German authorities. Athena Genealogy is located here in Germany, so they can even drive up to archives for you that don't have a digitalized database yet. They'll also translate all of the documents for you and meet with you for a weekly progress call. So if you'd like some expert help figuring out your eligibility, or you'd even like someone to help you through the entire process, be sure to check out Athena Genealogy at athena-genealogy.com. I also put the link in the video description below for you guys. Next up, my German ancestor immigrated to the United States before 1854, and my family did not maintain German citizenship. So I cannot get German citizenship through descent. Just as well, it will be very difficult to become fluent in German at my age, and it probably costs a lot of money. Okay, let me address the last point first. It's true that if you were to apply for German citizenship the regular way, by being an immigrant in Germany and living here, you would need to prove a B1 level of German in order to obtain citizenship. However, this doesn't apply to getting citizenship through descent, because technically, if you're eligible through your lineage, you were born a German citizen. You just didn't have it recognized until now. That's the technicality here. So technically, whenever I say that you can get German citizenship through descent, that's not actually 100% correct, because it would be more accurate to say that you can claim the German citizenship that you technically already have. And as a natural born citizen, you don't need need to show any language skills. So if you guys are eligible, you don't have to worry about learning the language. Unless you actually want to live in Germany, of course, then I would definitely recommend it, but it's not a requirement for citizenship through descent. Now, this comment also said that his family immigrated before 1854 and they didn't maintain German citizenship, which makes him not eligible. So just as a reminder from what I explained in last year's video, if your ancestors left Germany before the year 1904, which is the case here, it's unfortunately not very likely that you're eligible for German citizenship today, because at that time, Germans automatically lost their citizenship if they lived abroad for 10 years, unless they renewed their German passport, registered with a German consulate, or visited Germany within those 10 years. But most of the people didn't do any of that and therefore lost their citizenship. And at that time, whenever a man lost his German citizenship, his wife and minor children lost it as well. But if your ancestors left Germany after 1904, it's a lot more likely that they did pass their German citizenship down. Another scenario that might make you eligible is if your ancestors were victims of the Nazi regime and were either deprived of German citizenship, gave it up, or were never granted it to begin with. If that applies, you can claim citizenship for your family on grounds of restoration of German citizenship, a law that's enshrined in the German Constitution and was amended in 2021 to cover even more potential cases. Another change from 2021 that makes a lot more people eligible is that it now allows people to retrieve their citizenship who lost it due to gender discriminating laws that were in place up until 1975. One of those gender discriminating laws was that for a long time, German women automatically lost their German citizenship when they married a foreign man. And a child would only get citizenship if the father was German. And even if the father was German, but the child was born out of wedlock, that citizenship was not passed on up until 1993, which is pretty recent. So there are lots of different scenarios to look into. I'll put a link with an overview down below. What's important to keep in mind is that if you or your family did lose German citizenship because of any of these gender discriminating laws, you only have until 2031 to get your citizenship back. So if this is the legal basis that applies to you, be sure to get started on this rather sooner than later, because gathering all of the documents and going through the application process might take a while. You missed one very important thing that will prevent an otherwise German ancestry person from being allowed German citizenship, and that is if they have ever surrendered their right to becoming a German citizen, such as being in the United States military. This is similar to those who were German citizens and became naturalized American citizens. Yes and no. Generally, this is a great point to add, so thanks for bringing this up. However, in many cases, being in the US military doesn't affect your eligibility for German citizenship by descent at all, especially if the military service took place after World War II. But if your ancestor voluntarily served during World War II and still had German citizenship at that point, they probably did lose it due to that step. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Nowadays, though, Germany doesn't have any problem with people serving voluntarily in any EU country, NATO country, which as of right now, the US is, or Switzerland. Of course, it always makes sense to look into your individual case specifically and keep in mind that military service can play a role here, but it doesn't automatically have to be an obstacle. Next question, are there any downsides to having German citizenship? Do you need to file taxes or other paperwork regularly once you have obtained citizenship there? I am eligible, but want to consider everything. That's a very good question, and the answer is there aren't any downsides really. Germany doesn't tax based on citizenship, they only tax based on residency, so unless you move to Germany, you won't have to worry about taxes. In fact, there are only 2 countries in the world that tax all of their citizens no matter where they live, and that's the US and Eritrea. But even if you did move to Germany, they have a double taxation agreement with the US, which means that for the most part, you'll only have to pay income tax in one of the 2 countries. So as long as you don't live in Germany, you won't have to worry about filing taxes here, and you don't have to worry about something like jury duty, because that doesn't exist in Germany in that form. On that same note, there was another comment saying, I want to apply, but I don't want to be drafted by Germany either, so not sure what to do. Now, I totally understand the concern, especially especially with the current political situation in the world, but I actually don't think that that's something you'd need to worry about. Granted, since the Federal Republic of Germany was founded in 1949, we haven't been at war, so we don't really have any precedent to look at, but based on my research, it would be very unlikely for a German citizen who lives abroad to be drafted. Even when Germany still had a mandatory one-year military service, which we did up until 2011, and we're currently bringing it back in a scaled-down form, it didn't apply to Germans who permanently lived abroad. I can't promise it'll stay like that forever, but as of right now, you'd probably be fine. I'm working on this now and discovered that my great-grandfather did not naturalize until well after my grandfather was born. This gives me hope. I ordered the birth certificate from Münsingen maybe, fingers crossed. As I said, I love reading all of these updates from you guys, and this is another important point that I talked about in the other video. If your ancestors naturalized in the US or in another country, they usually automatically lost their German citizenship as part of that. But if they had children before they naturalized, they would have passed on the citizenship before giving it up, and then it's possible that it was passed down all the way. One benefit that many people in the US may not realize is that if you are a citizen of a European Union country, you have the automatic right to live and work in any other European Union country. So, for example, if a person was able to get German citizenship and have a German passport, they're free to live and work not only in Germany, but also in Ireland or France or Italy or Denmark or any other EU country. That can be a big benefit versus having to obtain a work or residence permit, which might range from difficult to impossible. That's a great point. As a German citizen, you are in fact allowed to live in other EU countries as well, as long as you fulfill certain requirements, like you'd have to be employed or self-employed or be a student or trainee in that country, or alternatively have enough funds to support yourself and have health insurance, etc. So there are definitely a few more steps involved than just renting an apartment anywhere in the EU and just staying there, but those steps are usually very doable. So that's a really good point to add and a great benefit of claiming German citizenship. Next question, do you know anything about Austria? Because my father was from Austria, and could I get Austrian citizenship by descent? That's a really good question, and I'm sure this applies to a few of you guys as well, but unfortunately, the options to claim Austrian citizenship through descent are a lot more limited than they are in Germany. If your father was born an Austrian citizen, you might have a chance since you'd only be the second generation, but generally speaking, most people only have a chance if their ancestors were persecuted by the Nazis during the Third Reich, because Austria has special laws in place to help those families regain their Austrian citizenship. But aside from that, there aren't a lot of ways to do that, and Austria doesn't usually allow dual citizenship either, with only a few exceptions. That's all I could find out, but I really don't know a whole lot about Austrian citizenship either, so I'll be sure to add some links in the video description for you guys to take a closer look, and I'd probably recommend reaching out to an Austrian consulate or embassy to double check with them. How long does it take to get the whole citizenship by descent process done? I'll try to answer that based on the comments that people left underneath the last video. There was someone who said that it only took 10 weeks, but also someone who said that it had been over a year and they were told that it could be up to 2 until it's fully processed. So I'd probably expect it to take up to a couple years after you submit your documents. And if you still have to track down a bunch of those, then it can probably be a lot longer. But overall, it seems like it can vary a lot from case to case. If you've recently completed the process or are in the middle of it, feel free to share your experiences down below. This can be super helpful for other people who are interested in doing this. And if you need some help tracking down your documents and going through the application process, be sure to check out athena-genealogy.com. And speaking of German ancestry, I actually just recently published a little 2-part documentary series on my channel about the sister city connection between my hometown of Munich and Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati has a large German heritage, which I did a little deep dive on, so be sure to check those out if you haven't seen them yet. There are so many fascinating connections there. And if you enjoy what I do here on my channel, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel for free, or even support me via the super thanks button down below or via Ko-fi.com or Patreon. I hope this video was helpful to some of you guys, and I will see you next time. Tschüss!